Well, first of all, thank you very much to my friends of Best Choice Parenting for the invitation. It is a big pleasure to be with you. I know we have people not only from Singapore, but from all around the world. So that's very cool. Thank you very much for being with us. And today we are going to talk about development stages in children. This is a very interesting topic. For us, preparing this webinar was a big challenge because the amount of information we can find about this topic is infinite. We have a lot of information, a lot of authors, a lot of research, so it's very difficult to make a summary in order to make a webinar only for 1 hour. So there are very important considerations we should make before we start with this content. First of all, the development stages are based on general criteria and might vary from one child to another, without this meaning a problem or a disease. So what we are going to present you right now is the general information, what most of research agrees, and is not a rule. You might find a child who is developing faster or slower. That doesn't mean that is a problem, okay? So be aware of that. Another very important point is that development stages are defined from different perspectives, different authors. For this webinar, we are going to mention the most critical milestones divided in physical, cognitive, and emotional development. These three different perspectives are the most common we find to define the development stages of children and also for adults. And something very important also, we are going to use as fundamentals the humanistic school of psychology. Why that? If you make a research about parenting, 99.9% of the research and material you are going to find will be based on the behaviorism school from psychology. But as Christine just told us, we belong to a different school, the school from Dr. Thomas Gordon, the humanistic school of psychology. It's a completely different style of parenting. If you want to know more about parenting styles, you can also join us in our next webinar conducted by Suna. Very interesting, but in Mandarin, I think. She will go much more into detail talking about parenting styles. But well, for now, it's enough to know we are a completely different style based on the humanistic school, and we are referring only to authors related or matching with the humanistic school of psychology. We are going to mention Jean Piaget, and we are going to mention Erik Erikson, which matches very well to the research we did and to our philosophy. We are going to consider three different stages: 0 to 3 years old, 4 to 10 years old, and 11 to 18 years old. Once again, if you make your own research, you might find different stages, maybe more, maybe also 3, but with different ages. There are different authors, as I just told you. Why did we decide to separate 0 to 3 years old, 4 to 10, and 11 to 18? I will explain you during this webinar, okay? As I told you, we are going to divide the the content, the material. First of all, physical development. Second, cognitive. And third one, emotional development. These three for every single stage of development. What is the goal of the webinar? If we only have 1 hour and we have so much information about this topic, first of all, we want to identify the general development stages in children to help explaining common problems when we are raising our children. So we want to address this from a very practical perspective, a very daily life perspective. We don't want you to become experts in this topic. The amount of information about development stages and problems we can face is almost infinite, as I told you. What we want to achieve in this webinar then is to give a general introduction to the topic and generate awareness of the importance of knowing about all this material when we are raising our children, okay? So those are our main goals for today. Okay, ready to start? Let's go then to our first stage. Toddlers, newborn to 3 years old. It is a very broad scope. It's a very long period of time from newborns to 3 years old. And here we have very, very interesting changes. When we are born, our brain is 25% of the size of an adult's brain. When we are 3 years old, it's going to be 80% of the size. So 3 times the size. Our height will be doubled and our weight will be multiplied by 4 only in 3 years. So we are in a very important stage in terms of physical changes. From almost having no control on our own body, we will start to sit down. Well, before sitting down, control our head, hold our head, then to sit down. Then we are going to crawl, then first steps, then walking by ourselves, and finally, 3 years old, we are going to be able to run a little bit. Okay? And we are going to start from almost no control of our body. Then we are going to point at some objects. At the end of this stage, we are going to be able to catch a ball and jump. A lot of changes, okay? What is going on in terms of the cognitive development? According to Jean Piaget, from 0 to 2 years old, we have the sensory motor stage. That's how he called it. We are going to develop our 5 senses. We want to see the world. We want to listen to the world. We want to taste the world. We want to touch it. Another very interesting learning in this stage is that we are going to understand the object permanence. What do I mean with this? If I cover something from the view of the child at the beginning will think that the object disappeared. But as we grow up in this same stage, we are going to learn that even when we cover the object, the cover still exists. This is something very important we understand about permanence of the object. And when we are 2 years old, we are going to change the stage to the pre-operational stage. I'm going to talk more about this one later. What else are we going to have in terms of the cognitive stage? Or cognitive changes, sorry, in this stage. First, our view is not completely developed. And we are going to get to the point when we are 6 months old of having a 20/20 sight. We are going to be able to distinguish people already. From relying on nonverbal communication, only crying, to a vocabulary of 2,500 words, maybe even 3,000 words when we are 3 years old. We are going to be able to build sentences of 7 words, and we are going to be able also to understand past, present, and future tense. What else are we going to have? As I told you, very small babies, they are only trying to reach objects, but when we are 3 years old, we are pretending to read books. We are holding the books in our hands and we are pretending to read. We are going to have the peekaboo game. This is very interesting. Why? Because when we are newborns, we think that, for example, if we don't see, no one can see. In other words, we think that everyone else is perceiving the world as we perceive it. So if I don't see, no one can see. But for the age of 2 years old, we are going to understand that it's not like this. If I don't see, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that others cannot see. Okay? A very special note I would like to mention in this stage is that when we were making the research about the cognitive development, all the authors, 100% of the authors we looked at were mentioning the importance of understanding the word no. They are based on behaviorism. They are based on controlling children. We are not like that. That made me think, what if we put more emphasis on understanding the word yes? No author mentioned it. And since we are very young, we need to be encouraged by our parents. Yes, do that. Yes, try it. Yes, start to learn. Yes, try things by yourself. This is very, very important, instead of being afraid and trying to control our children since they are newborns. Just a note for you for reflection. The third area of development, the emotional. According to Erik Erikson, we are in the stage of trust versus untrust, 1 to 2 years old. What does it mean? It is very important that we are close to our main caregiver, because if we have a very close bond with our main caregiver, we are going to start trusting the world. And this trust will last for the rest of our lives. If we don't have a very strong bond with our main caregiver, we are going to develop untrust. We are going to be afraid. And this is critical. Also, according to Erik Erikson, from 2 years old to 4 years old, we are going to have the stage of autonomy versus shame. We are going to start exploring our own body. We are going to start asking about ourselves, who we are, what is going on with our body. If our parents tell us that this is wrong, instead of developing autonomy, we are going to develop shame. So it's very important that our parents encourage us to develop this autonomy. Okay? In this initial stage, I would like to mention the attachment theory. This is critical. This theory establishes that most of all during the first 2 years of our life, our bond with our main caregiver, mom in most of the cases, is critical. According to a study of the Minnesota University, we can already predict with 77% of accuracy at the age of 3 years old who will drop out high school, depending only in the attachment with our main caregiver. Imagine that. Another study in the University of Harvard with undergraduate students revealed that 91% of students feeling distant from their parents presented health issues 35 years later, in comparison of 45% of those who felt close to their parents. That important is building a strong bond with our main caregiver from 0 to 2 years old. Some other important points. We are not aware of other versus me at the beginning. Maybe you have realized when you have very, very young children together, if one starts to cry, the other starts to cry right away. We cannot distinguish at the beginning. If he cries, it's him. I don't need to cry. We cannot distinguish that. Okay? For us, everything is the same. The whole world is seen from our own perspective. Later on, we are going to start learning that no, that other baby is another person. We go from not understanding our emotions to getting to know them and express them. Something very important here. We start to experience more emotions already when we are 1 or 2 years old, but remember, at that age, we are not having a big vocabulary yet. We start to understand that others have emotions also, and we start developing empathy, and we start to show affection on our own. Okay, some important points about this stage. The false belief. This that I want to show to you is very, very interesting. And to show this, I have my 3 years old with me, Christine.
Hello, Daddy.
Okay. How are you, darling?
I am very good.
Okay, Christine. Honey, I want to show something to you. What do I have here?
Crayons.
Crayons. That's right. What do you think is inside this box then?
Crayons.
Oh, of course. Let's check.
Okay.
Oh boy.
What's that?
Look at this. Candles.
Oh, why is it candles?
Because I changed them. Now you know we have candles inside.
Okay.
Let me put them back, honey. Guess what? I have a friend with me here. Boss.
Hello, boss.
What do you think if I ask boss about the content of the crayon box? What do you think he will answer? Stop there. Please, everyone, go to your Kahoot, and Karen will help us to play the first question. And please answer this question. What do you think Christine will tell me about that?
You're asking me? Sorry, what was the...
So everyone go to Kahoot as shown on the screen to type in your answer. What will boss say about what is inside the box? Right?
When I ask Christine, tell me, what do you think boss will answer when I ask about the content of the box? What do you think Christine will answer to me? Karen will play the first question, and you will be able to answer there. Remember, you answer in your mobiles. The question will appear on the screen, but you answer in your mobiles.
What?
Okay, let's go to the first one.
Do we have the answer?
there is the first question. What does the child think boss will answer? Candles. Candles. Exactly. If I ask Christine, what do you think boss will answer? Christine will answer, candles. Why? Because she cannot think that boss doesn't know about it. Okay? What is the key point here? Christine thinks that boss is seeing the world as she is seeing the world. When we are young, it works like that. Until we are 4 years old, then we can realize if you show this box to boss, boss will answer markers. Until we are 4 years old, we can put in the shoes of another person. Okay? This is critical. Why? Because this makes us understand why our children don't share their toys or they are not able to follow turns, because they can only see the world from their own perspective. The second very important point for you. Thank you, Karen, for that. If we can go back to PowerPoint. The second very important point in this stage. Tantrums are natural. As parents, we feel so bad because our child is making a tantrum and we want to make him understand, don't make a tantrum, and we don't know how to stop it. Here is the reason why our children have tantrums. Remember, 1 year old, we have a very short vocabulary, but we are already experiencing a lot of emotions and we want to express those emotions. But guess what? The only way we know how to express ourselves is crying. What do? I feel strong, I want to express that, I express strong, crying very loud, in a very strong way. Until I am 3 years old, I will start having enough vocabulary to stop tantrums and explain how I am feeling. If we want to accelerate this process, we need to learn how to actively listen to our children. That you can learn, you can get trained about active listening in our PET workshop, okay? It's very, very interesting. Or if you want to know more about active listening, you can read about Thomas Gordon. He is the creator of the active listening. You can check more with him in his books, okay? Good. So let's go to the next stage. 4 to 10 years old. This stage, Sigmund Freud called it the latency stage because he thought it was not important. Not a lot of relevant things were going on. But now we know that this is a critical stage also, and a lot of important things are taking place. In terms of our physical changes, we are going to do more fine things like puzzles. We are going to be able to wash our hands, our teeth. Eventually, we are going to tie our own shoes. We are going to dress themselves. And of course, a 10 years old child can take a shower and get ready by himself. Our body will start changing from this very small boy shape to a grown-up, more adult shape. We're going to lose fat and we're going to gain muscle. We're going to have a better balance and coordination. And when we are 10 years old, we are going to experience an increase in small muscle coordination from barely grabbing pencils, we are going to be able to write, to make drawings. And why did we decide to make the change on 10 years old? Because at 10 years old, most of us will start to show signals or signs of poverty, which is a very important change. For 12 years old, 95% of the children will have shown already signs of poverty, but that's why we chose the change on 10 years old, okay? What is going on the cognitive area? According to Piaget, once again, we continue in the pre-operational stage, remember? It will go from 2 years old until we are 7. This means we are not able to use specific cognitive operations. At the beginning, we are not able to understand people see the world in a different way. And in this stage, we play pretend a lot. This is the way we are learning. Once we are like 7 years old, maybe 8 years old, we are going to change to the operational stage. We are going to develop logic, and we're going to start with concrete cognitive operations. Our brain will start to rearrange our thoughts to classify and build concrete operational mental structures. We begin to understand that our thoughts are feelings, and feelings are unique, okay? This thing that I mentioned some minutes ago about sharing, taking turns, will start taking place when we are 4, when we are in this stage. We overcome the stage of the false belief, what I told you about boss. We can already start to set goals and start taking our own decisions. We will start to read, write, and we will show our interest in singing, acting, maybe dancing, of course, until we get to the point when we read fluently. And not only that, we are going to be able to discuss the content of the reading. We are going to be able to write stories. A very important change and interesting is that when we are 7 years old or a little bit later, we are going to start using the words to have humor. Before that, it's the humor only of hitting someone else, something silly, mimics, things like that. But only until we are 7 to 8 years old, we start to use language for humor. Until this stage, we are going to have, we are going to be able to pay attention for 1 hour or more. This is very important. Until we are 7 or 8 years old, we can pay attention on the same thing for more than 1 hour. Until 10 years old, we are going to start having a middle ground in terms of being good or bad. Things are not going to be any more black and white. We are going to start understanding that there is a middle ground, there is a gray area. We start to agree with rules, but not only to agree, to understand them. And we are going to be aware of abstract elements like money, time, mathematics, okay, until we are 8 years old. What is going on in the emotional area of our development? According to Erik Erikson, we go through the initiative versus guilt stage. This one is from 4 years old to 5 years old. This means we are going to start trying things by ourselves. We are going to make experiments. What happens if I do this? Is it okay if I do this or that? We are making these questions. So it is very important that our parents and our family, because we are learning from all the family, encourage us to keep trying and learning. Other way, if we get scolded, we are going to develop guilt. The next stage, according to Erik Erikson, goes from 5 years old to 12 years old. We are going to discover our own interests. We are going to understand we are different, and we will try to show that we are self-autonomous. So in this stage, once again, positive feedback is very, very important. Other way, instead of being productive, what Erikson calls industry, we are going to develop inferiority. Okay. When we are 5 years old, we are going to start identifying with a group. We will care about being liked and accepted. We will be much more aware of our emotions. And until 6 years old, we're going to start showing self-control skills. At the age of 3 and 4, tantrums will go down. Age of 6, they are supposed to almost completely disappear. If they haven't disappeared and we find that our children are having frequent tantrums after 6 years old, maybe we have to change our parenting strategies. Until 7, we are going to be able to use self-calming strategies, to be a little bit self-critic, and we will start to show much more empathy. We will become more balanced when we are 8 years old. We will be able to cope with frustration, failure, and disappointment. And we are going to start admiring older youth when we are 10 years old. Guess what? This means puberty has just started also. Why is this stage so important? Because, as I told you, our children will be very close to the family, will admire parents a lot, will follow the rules established by parents. So in terms of asking our children what to do, asking them to follow rules, things can be kind of easy. But if during this stage we don't invest time strengthening our relationship with our children, we don't invest time showing our children we can listen to them, we will address them respectfully, we are going to accept them, adolescence will be very painful. This is a great opportunity to strengthen our relationships. So adolescence is much, much easier. Okay, some other important points about this stage. Many parents get confused and complain a little bit because of the bedtime. They try to plan the day with their children. They try to set the times, but their children don't follow this plan. Why is this happening? Remember, until we are 8 years old, we are going to be able to plan and handle abstract concepts as time. We also have problems with the homework. My child doesn't concentrate. He wants to go to play. Yes, because if he is 6 years old, 7 years old, he's not going to be concentrated for more than 1 hour in only one thing. Okay? So these are the very, very important points of this stage. And a final point. If we give solutions to our children, if we are not training them to be free, if we are not training them to solve problems, if we are not training them to be responsible of their actions, we can have a painful adolescence. So I would really like to invite you to get trained in effective parenting skills so you can train your children so they are ready to be 12 years old, to be adolescents, teenagers, and it is easier not only for you but also for them. Okay, so having this said, I would like to go to our second Kahoot question. Karen, if you could help us, please. And here we have a poll. Okay. Okay. Great. So we are having a different perspective in this workshop now. Now we are aware that if children don't follow the rules, it's because they are not ready according to their development stage. And when they are already 7 or 8 years old, they don't know the reason of the rule. Okay? It's very important to express our children why we have that rule. Most of all, if we can set the rules with them, listening to them, it will be very, very easy. Okay? We won't need to play the policeman with them or the policewoman. If you make some research, a lot of authors will tell you they are challenging you. They don't like the rules. You have to set the limits. Be careful, according to the Gordon model and the development stages, we disagree with those two concepts, okay? Thank you very much, Karen. If we can go back to our PowerPoint to check our final development stage. 11 to 18 years old. What is going on here? In terms of physical changes, a lot of changes once again. We are going to increase our skills in sports because our body is getting more mature. For the moment we are 12 years old, poverty is very clear. We are going to start having this growth spurt. We're going to grow a lot. And be careful because these very fast changes can have not only a positive, but also could be that they have a negative psychological impact in our children. At 15 years old, boys will get deeper voices, facial hair, and girls, in most of the cases, will have finished their growth. 15 years old. The sleep need will change. The cycles will change. It is going to be a very, very important issue. And when we are 17 years old, most of the people have completed puberty and reached their full height. In the case of boys or men, they will continue to develop muscles. And for the moment we are 18 years old, we have reached our sexual maturity. Here you have the reason how we finished this development stage at 18 years old. Physically, we are already adults. But what happens in the cognitive development? According to Jean Piaget, we will enter the formal operational stage. We will become formally operational and we can think rationally about abstract and hypothetical events. We will understand perfectly abstract concepts as success and failure, love and hate. We are going to create a deeper understanding of identity and morality. We are going to be finally able to plan our life and prioritize on around 15 years old. And it is until this point that we can philosophize and think about thinking. Even when Piaget told us we will always learn, he says this is our last learning stage. This stage will last until we pass away. We are going to be aware that our thoughts are private. We will increase our attention span. It will get longer than 1 hour now. We are going to be aware of concepts like justice and equality. We can start focus on the future, set personal goals, important goals in the middle and long term. We are going to challenge assumptions and solutions from adults. At 15, maybe we, as I told you, we are going to be concerned about our future. Emotionally, what is going on? According to Erik Erikson, this is the stage of identity versus confusion, 13 to 19 years old. Why identity versus confusion? Because we are going to become aware of having different social roles. We are going to become aware that we are not only children, we are also friends, we are students, and we are citizens. So it is very important that our parents support us about exploring these different roles. If parents don't allow us to explore the different roles, we are going to develop confusion. What is the main problem or the big problem about this? Have you ever heard about identity crisis? Well, it takes place because of this. Okay. At the beginning of this stage, we still recognize adults as an authority, 12, 13 years old. But this stage is very important because we are changing from being children to being adults. Being an adult means to be independent. So we need to, we need to express, we need to show that we are independent, that we can take care of ourselves. As a consequence, we're going to start challenging the authority of adults. If we are used to listen to our children, if we invest the time with them in the previous stage, if we let them explore their different roles, we respect them, then this challenge of authority will be very short. If we use power and we want them to follow the rule that we are setting for them, we are going to have a lot of troubles. Identity crisis, as I told you, and as Dr. Gordon said, children don't rebel against parents. They rebel against the use of power by parents. Okay? We can start risky behaviors even when we improve our decision-making skills. As I told you, we will start to explore our identity, our independence. And something very important from the emotional point of view is that we will be able to understand others' points of view. Something very funny is that we feel always observed. Some of us, we think that everyone is looking at us. I don't know if you remember. I do remember. I was always feeling observed. Around, we are 14 years old. We think we know a lot. We know almost everything in this world. So that's why we also challenge authority and point of view from others. And we feel easily embarrassed by our parents. Okay, we are looking more for our friends. This looking for friends, the support of our peers will start when we are 10 years old, very subtle, but when we are teenagers, we will look a lot for the support of our peers as a consequence of looking for our independency. But when we are 16, if everything went well, we are going to support a lot the guidance of our parents. If things didn't go that well, maybe until we are 17, 18, we are going to start accepting the guidance of our parents. Something very important, we start interest in romantic relationships and intimacy. And we are going to start looking for adult leadership roles. And also, around 17 years old, we are going to accept the responsibilities of these adult roles. Okay, we are going to feel also comfortable receiving the advice of other adults. Okay, we are getting to the end of this webinar, and to make a closure, I would like to go to our final Kahoot question. Please, Karen, if you could help us. False. Yeah, true, false. That's right. It's false, and let me explain you why teenagers cannot be able to control their emotions and act responsibly. As parents, we would like our 14 years old to understand and behave in a very responsible way. Why this is not possible, and please consider this is very, very important and very interesting. How does our brain works? Our brain has several parts, but for this explanation, I will mention 3 of them, or mainly 2 of them. The amygdala, which is the very primitive brain and is in control of our emotions, and the neocortex, okay? The neocortex is controlling our thinking. Here are the ideas, here are the emotions. What is the problem? If we are not well trained or well raised, I don't know how to say it, these 2 brains will work apart from each other, okay? The prefrontal cortex, this part that we have here, our brain, okay, is responsible of attaching the neocortex with the amygdala. And it is fully developed until we are 20 or 22 years old. What does it mean? When we are teenagers, our brain is not mature enough to control our emotions. The prefrontal cortex is not completely developed. So we are not having completely linked the thinking part with the emotions. So it is very common still to find teenagers having explosions, having outbursts, and taking very high risks because they cannot put these 2 parts together. Okay, so we need to be patient with them. Good. Thank you, Karen. We went back to the PowerPoint. This was the final important point I wanted to mention to you. Once again, active listening is critical to help teenagers to develop the prefrontal cortex and link the amygdala with the neocortex, okay? To know more about active listening, please get trained. Get trained on that. It will help you a lot. Okay, on my side, that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, for your time, and we open the forum for questions and answers. Christine will help us with that.
All right, thank you so much, Laura, for sharing and an interactive session. I hope you guys have learned some development information about your children now. Vanessa, will this webinar be broadcast? Yes, we will be saving on our website, and we will be emailing you if you need it. Okay, you can post your question here. You can type in the chat box if you have any questions, and I will bring it over to Laura to answer the question. In the meantime, while you guys are typing the questions, we do have some questions already sent to us by some of the participants before during the registration. So we will just answer first. We'll just answer some of the questions while you guys can continue to type in the questions in the chat box. Okay. So Laura, we do have questions from a participant. So does learning styles matter in a 2-year-old kid, or should parents expose him to a variety of learning styles since young?
Okay, if I understand well the question, if we have to change our parenting style according to the development stages, for example, when they are 2 years old, if we need to adapt our parenting style, is this correct?
Does learning styles matter in a 2-year-old kid, or should parents expose him to a variety of learning styles since young?
Okay, I will try to answer according to what I understand from the question. Does learning styles matter?
Maybe if the participants that has asked this question is in here now, maybe you can unmute yourself and have a more interactive session with Laura, since he's here. Yeah. If
we have the participant who wrote this question, it will be great to listen to her or to him.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself and continue these questions and conversation with Laura. Otherwise, Laura will just try to answer according to his understanding. Yeah, Laura, I think you can just answer.
No mute. Okay. The one I have here written is, does learning styles matter in a 2-year-old kid? Okay. But learning styles, this means how the child learns. Well, we are going to realize how our child learns later. When our child is 2 years old, it is very, very important to expose him, yes, to different ways of learning, different games, different toys, let him explore the world. And later on, we are going to realize if our child has which learning style our child has. Okay, if you want to develop the learning skills of your child, you can look for alternatives like Montessori schools or early trainings, and this can help. Don't expect your 2 years old to do all the things that a 3 years old do, because that's too much. 50% faster, that's too much, but they will develop faster. Okay, be patient. The name of the game here is time or patience, and patience. About our parenting styles with our children, I will suggest you don't need different parenting styles. If you can understand and adopt the humanistic parenting style from Dr. Thomas Gordon, trust me, you don't need to change your parenting style. Even more interesting, you don't need to change your style in your daily life relationships with anyone. Okay, this issue of changing parenting styles comes from misunderstandings and a big mess. I wouldn't like to go in detail right now. Soon I will do it next week. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Okay, we have a question from Ryan. I think it's the same that he sent through. At what age should we need to send the child to enrichment lesson or class?
Okay, I think this will depend more. You can do it since they are very, very young, maybe even before 1 year old. But this will depend more on the offer of the early training school, because some early training schools will start with younger children than others. Okay, so get references, make a good research about the methods this early training school is using, and check when they can receive your child. The earlier, the better.
Okay, thank you. Next one will be, what can be done to improve on child's learning in the future?
Okay, something very, very important. I would like to invite you to go again to read or look for videos about Jean Piaget development learning stages and Erik Erikson development stages. If you know more about them, you will be more able to understand what your children are trying to do, how they are trying to experience or learn with their behaviors. Many times we get pissed off because our children are drawing on the wall. Well, they are just experiencing the world, okay? Or they bring earth to the carpet. They are experiencing the world. They are checking what happens. They are playing. That's the way of learning, okay? So Jean Piaget and Erik Erikson can be a very good reference to help you understand this and encourage your children. And if a behavior is non-acceptable for you, learning Thomas Gordon model will help you to express that without limiting the development of your child. This is very important, okay? Because it doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice our needs in the name of the growth of our children. No, we have to take care of our needs also. But to do that, we need special skills to do it in a very respectful way. Okay, so what can we do to improve? Encourage them and inform yourselves. Look for early training schools and bring them thinking toys. These toys to handle shapes, handle colors, to assemble puzzles, all the games inviting your children to play, to think, will help them a lot to learn better.
Okay, I hope this answered the question. And we are running out of time, so we will just answer 2 more questions. If you have any questions after that is not answered, you can do it offline. So I'm going to answer 2 more. That is from the chat Q&A. How do we make it more subtle and be more sensitive to a 6-year-old so that she will not feel observed when we are purely trying to support them?
Okay, how to do it so they don't feel observed when we are trying to support them? Well, first of all, be aware of the verbal and non-verbal language of our child. If our child starts to complain non-verbally or even verbally, like leave me alone or things like that, listen to that, leave them alone. Many times they don't want to be observed because of the fear of being negatively evaluated. They have experienced this negative feedback before and they are afraid of suffering this once again. Okay, so in order to learn how to send positive feedback or negative feedback in a way that we don't damage the self-esteem of our children, it is very useful to learn how to use I messages, positive I messages, confrontive I messages, both from Dr. Thomas Gordon.
All right, thank you, Laura. The last question will be how to get a 5-year-old to be more motivated in learning, especially tasks, skills that are more challenging and foreign.
At 2 years old, how to encourage
5 years
them to
old,
learn?
yeah.
5 years old.
Yeah.
Well, learning is a natural process we have at 5 years old, and most of all at 5 years old, because this is the age when we have enough language, we can communicate, and we can ask. Jean Piaget is telling us we start to process in different ways the world. For example, we understand if I pour this liquid into a smaller glass, it's the same amount of liquid. It's not more liquid or less liquid. So we start to make different processes. So how to encourage them? Let them experience the world. Our worry is their safety, okay? So if they are safe, let them experience the world. I insist, try to get learning toys for or thinking toys for them. That will help them a lot. Playing is a great way of learning, even for adults.